Bowser's Castle is one of the hardest tracks in the game. Filled with tough turns, speedy sequences, and some of the coolest shortcuts the game has to offer, the amount of alternate routes found in this course are vast and complex. So today, as we go through the roads less traveled of Bowser's Castle, we will see the simple, the advanced, and the unorthodox paths that you can take. Let's start with this first section, which is completely filled with tons of routes. Not only is there the left and right options, each with their own pathways, but there are also the upper sections. So let's jump right in. First, right at the start, we can jump off of the course to wall ride onto either of these signs and trick back onto the pathway. This is risky and slower than the baseline, but it can be used to style on your opponents. And yes, I am going over every route in this course. Now, the baseline will be taking the right pathway as quick as it can, but taking the left path is fairly close, around 0.2 seconds faster or slower depending on how tight your turns are. But the right path has some advantages that we will see later on. Whether you go left or right, we have the potential to wall ride and trick up to these railings. Now, these railings generally will slow us down, but we get some easy coins and there are multiple ways to exit these rails. If you jump forward off of them, you're about 0.6 seconds slower than the baseline. If you're on the right side and you right trick into this sign, you bounce and have an easier turn afterwards, leading you to be about even with the baseline. Now, if you're on the left side and right trick into this wall, you'll be 0.4 seconds slower than the baseline. Now, what do I mean by the baseline? Well, the baseline is a time trial ghost that takes the fastest, basic pathway. It takes tight turns, it tricks where it should, but it doesn't go off-road, and it doesn't use mushrooms, and it doesn't do fancy maneuvers. Think of it as the fastest way to take the intended route. Now, one cool route that is definitely not intended is to perform a charge jump and clink against this wall to jump this gap, completely skipping the entire S-turn section that the normal route takes. Now, my best performance saved about 2.2 seconds using this route, but it's possible to save upwards of 3 seconds if you take it completely right. This route is very difficult to pull off, especially if you consider all the other racers and items alongside you. But fret not, if you miss, Lakitu will set you on the far side of the course and you'll be barely behind the baseline. So, the risk isn't devastating. Now, remember the upper railings from before? Well, there is an easier way to do this skip using the rails. It looks much more complicated, but it is easier to land once you know how. Make your way up to the railing, and right before or right as you collect this coin, right trick onto this wall, wait a beat, then left trick to this outcropping and slide off of it. The momentum will take you to these blue arrows which you then bounce off of, and then fly over the lava with much more height. Again, this looks more difficult, but it's much more reliable once you get the timings down. I used this to record a lot of the footage later on in the second half of this video. Now, before we go over the S-turn section, we need to go over the secret upper pathways above. You can ride these chains to get up top, where there are item boxes, and then ride along these exit railings to jump back to the course. Whether you take the left half or the right half are similar speeds, so I'll just be going over the exit railings and how they differ. First, we can neutral jump off the middle path, but this leads us to a really wide turn that is 0.6 seconds slower than the baseline. To make this a little faster, I'd recommend jumping to the left railings and no tricking off the end, but there are still a few weird turns, so we end up being 0.37 seconds slower than the baseline. Jumping to the right rail and then left tricking off of this race wrench also leaves us slower than the baseline. Now, there's one final pathway up above, but before we do, let's take a moment to check out two things. First, if you're enjoying the video, there's a subscribe and a like button that you should check out. But more importantly, let's learn about the S-turn section. There are two basic pathways on this S-turn. First, we can mushroom over this little lava section to save about 0.5 seconds, and then there is this section here, and most players don't know about this section. You can drive past these cones, wall ride off the storage containers, and jump back into the track. This does avoid a few tricky turns, but the pathway is much slower than just speeding through while drifting. So why is this section here? Well, this container section is for the upper pathway route. When you take the left rail off of the upper pathway, you have a terrible angle to start drifting through the S section. So instead, driving straight into the container jump is much faster if you took that route. We actually are very comparable to the baseline. So if you aren't into the mega skips from before, consider learning this route. It's very easy and very safe. I think makes it a very good route. Now, believe it or not, there are even more pathways to take in this first section of the map. So let's go over them. As we exit the lower pathways, preferably on the right side for better alignment, we can charge jump off of this ramp and carefully aim for the container wall, performing a wall ride and jumping back into the course, saving us 1.36 seconds. This is very precise, and I may or may not have lost my mind trying to get it for this video. But if you want to speed it up even more, but it's still equally difficult, we can use a mushroom during the charge jump and aim above the lava to attach to this secret railing. The rail is faster and smoother than the wall ride, and we can left trick off the end to save 1.85 seconds instead of 1.36. And now, with all of that out of the way, we can finally launch into the storm and approach the second half of Bowser's Castle, where there are less routes to go over, but they are still extremely cool. A great example is this first skip, where we jump off the course, wall ride onto the sides of the rocks, and then trick through the lava clouds and land on the stage, skipping a long and very wide turn. Now, that is the best way to take this section, but it's not the only path we can take. If the lava isn't bubbling from this spout, we can use a mushroom and jump off at the right angle to land on the platform like before. But this path is actually slower than the baseline, so using a mushroom here is definitely not worth it. A cool pathway that uses mushrooms that is faster than the baseline is to use 2 mushrooms through this lava, then jump into this electricity signal to bounce to the mid-air platform. It's not the best use of a mushroom, but it's certainly better than before. Now, as we move on to this next platform, there is a simple shortcut and an advanced shortcut. The simple route uses a mushroom through the lava. Then you must brake to stay on the road and fly off to the final section, saving nearly a full second safely. Now the advanced route is to jump into this electrical post and bounce to the walls and then do something to stay on the course, but I cannot do it, so let's take a look at the current world record. And look at that, they all use the B-Dasher. That's sick. I love the B-Dasher. Now, I assume the world record route has nothing new in it. We start off... Wait, what? That beginning route is sick. I gotta do that and add it to this video. And trust me, I tried to get it for 30 minutes, and I barely got it one time, and it was so slow. So let's just look at the world record time for this. We start off by going towards the chain link rail, but we immediately left trick off of it, and then motion control right trick a couple of times to land on this wall, and then disconnect onto the railings. Now, the world record time looks like the route saves about 0.6 seconds compared to how I took the route by using the charge jump. But that is world record pace, so it naturally would be faster than my speed. If we include the mega skip that the world record route gets, the world record route is 3.6 seconds faster than my baseline, which is insane. But that's what we expect from the world record time. Anyway, let's skip ahead to what I wanted to show off. And here, we jump towards the electrical pole, bounce off of it, and wall ride right here. Now, you trick through the lava without getting hurt somehow, and then wall ride again and manage to land gracefully towards the glider ramp. Now, this course is just so awesome, man. Oh my gosh, who would have thought that you could do this? Anyway, let's go back to my slow gameplay as we go over the final split U-turn section. My baseline is forced to go around the meteors as it travels through, and I want to showcase which route is fastest without the timed obstacles in the way, because I want to go over what a versus race is, not just what a time trials is. So, I timed exactly how long it takes me to go through the left, the right, and the shortcut path from entering the glide ramp until we exit the U-turn section, without any obstacles hindering any of the paths. So, here are the results. Taking the left section, which goes above, is exactly 9 seconds long. The right-hand section is actually slower, taking 9.3 seconds long. But the right side has an opportunity for the mushroom shortcut, reducing its time to about 8.69 seconds. Nice! The sides are fairly balanced. One side is faster, but the other side has an opportunity for a shortcut. Now that we've gone through all of that, that should conclude our look at the roads less traveled of Bowser's Castle. Was there a route that I missed? Let me know in the comments below. And while you're down there, let me know which course I should do next by posting your own comments or liking other people's comments for suggestions that you agree with. And if you really enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to stay tuned for more content. And finally, thank you to my patrons, each and every one of you. And as always, have a nice day. Thanks for watching.